Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 875 of NoDQ&A video. 125 away now until episode number 1000. Thank you all for your continued support of NoDQ&A video. If you enjoyed today's video, please share it on Facebook or Twitter. Tell a friend, anybody you know who watches wrestling, have them check out NoDQ&A video. Got your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift. You can send questions there using the hashtag PAIV. And today just happens to be election day. I say vote for Larry David, but that's just me. I think he would be pretty good at being president. But anyways, enough of that. Let's get down to your questions. First one today comes from Benny. With the news that Undertaker is returning on November 15th, what do you expect we will see? Do you see him at Survivor Series? Hashtag please answer in video 1. So this is a first time asker. I think we very well could see The Undertaker get involved in the Randy Orton-Kane storyline. Undertaker naturally coming to the aid of his brother Kane to fight off Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. Now, it's interesting because I talked about in the last video how Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt are part of the Survivor Series match. There's no place for The Undertaker at this time. The Survivor Series card has been set up. Everybody has been announced for the Raw and Smackdown matches. And the other question is, will Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt even remain long-term partners, or will Randy Orton turn on Bray Wyatt at Survivor Series? Will Randy Orton face Undertaker? That is something that's been rumored to take place at a later date, possibly even WrestleMania. The idea is that Randy Orton would be able to work a safe match with The Undertaker. So it's a big question mark, but one would think Undertaker will come out to help Kane. That's the only thing that at least makes sense at this point. Maybe it'll just be a one-time appearance because it's the 900th Smackdown and they're trying to boost up the ratings for the show. And then maybe down the line we'll see how the Orton storyline plays out and WWE can decide if they want to go with a heel Randy Orton versus Undertaker for WrestleMania or do something else for Undertaker. I still think WWE should do Undertaker versus Cena at WrestleMania. That's what I would like to see at least. That would be my call if I was going to set up a match for The Undertaker. I would go with Taker versus Cena. But to answer your question, I think it's unlikely we see Undertaker at Survivor Series until we find out how this Orton-Wyatt storyline plays out. This one comes from SmartMark99. Does Finn Balor need to win the Royal Rumble? Considering he never really lost the title, doesn't that automatically put him in contention? This is a very good point that you bring up. Finn Balor should technically be allowed to come back and go straight for the title. So many guys have in the past, guys that have gotten injured right after either losing the title or having to forfeit the title. They come back and they get the title shot. It makes sense. Finn Balor never lost the title. He should not have to prove himself by winning a 30-man Royal Rumble. So yeah, that would be a pretty big logic hole. A pretty big logic hole if Finn Balor has to win the Royal Rumble to get his rematch for a title he never lost. So yeah, it's possible Finn Balor will be back before the Rumble. He's currently being advertised for the Roadblock pay-per-view, so maybe he'll show up at Roadblock and challenge the Universal Champion at the Royal Rumble. That would seem to make sense, but him showing up and saying, I'm entering the Royal Rumble, rather than just saying, hey, I want my title shot, yeah, that would be very weird. Got this one here from Jonathan. What did you think of Candace Michelle? She was doing pretty good, even billed as the next Trish Stratus by JR. The thing about Candace Michelle is WWE was trying to make her the next Trish Stratus, but unfortunately she did not have the charisma of Trish Stratus nor the in-ring ability of Trish Stratus to fill those shoes. And I think that was a problem. I think trying to make her too much like Trish Stratus was her downfall. And I think if WWE had just focused on making her a unique character and something different, maybe she would have had greater success in WWE. But also she was a model that was brought in, and yeah, she was very similar to Trish Stratus because Trish was also a model before WWE, and she ended up becoming really good in the ring and becoming a very solid performer. But Candace Michelle just didn't have the abilities that Trish Stratus had to really succeed at that level, at least in my opinion. This one comes from Dave Lesnar. With rumors of Hulk Hogan possibly coming back, what capacity would it be in? Also, are the fans going to be forgiving? Yes, I do not see Hogan coming back and fans booing him. They will welcome him back with open arms. I mean, fans are very forgiving. Fans forgave Brock Lesnar for quitting and leaving for all those years. And you know damn well if CM Punk comes back, everyone's going to go nuts for him. Nobody's going to boo him for walking out on the company. Steve Austin walked out in 2002. He came back. Everyone still cheered him despite the stuff that happened with Deborah leading up to Austin coming back. You know, the fans forgave Austin. I mean, hell, fans have even forgiven Chris Benoit. Not a lot of them. I still see the comments from people, Chris Benoit should be in hell and all that stuff. And by the way, if you're a Christian, that's not very Christian of you to say that he's going to hell. But again, that's a whole other topic. I'm going to get a lot of heat if I start discussing religion and wrestling here. So I will just say that I expect Hogan to get a great reaction when he comes back. The fans will forgive him. And as far as what role he has, I think that Hogan will continue to be a goodwill ambassador for WWE. He'll make the public appearances, he'll make the occasional television appearance, and that will be it. He's not going to come back and be the GM. I mean, he could, but I'm not expecting it. He'll just make the occasional appearance when WWE wants to build up a show or use him for an angle where he can help draw some interest in something. But other than that, it's not like he's going to come back and wrestle or be a major weekly television character or anything like that. He's just going to go back to doing the occasional appearance, and that'll be it. This one comes from Stuart. Hey Aaron, how good do you think Seth Rollins would be in line with the great performers of all time? Shawn Michaels level? He's got a ways to go, but I would say that Seth Rollins is as good athletically as anybody in WWE history. But you have to look at somebody like Shawn Michaels, and the thing about Shawn Michaels is he was great at everything he did. Shawn Michaels could talk, he could wrestle, he had charisma. He wasn't the most professional person, but he was great at everything he did when he was going out there and performing. Seth Rollins is great. Seth Rollins is athletically one of the most gifted performers in WWE history. He's not the most charismatic guy. He's not the best promo. And he hasn't been involved in industry-changing matches. I mean, Shawn Michaels, he was involved in a lot of firsts. He was in the first major ladder match on a WWE pay-per-view. He was in the first Hell in a Cell. He was in the first Elimination Chamber. Shawn Michaels did a lot of firsts. Can Seth Rollins do a lot of firsts? It's really hard in this era. I mean, it is a different era, so it's hard to compare Shawn Michaels and Seth Rollins. Will Seth Rollins really be given the opportunity to do groundbreaking new things that we haven't seen before? And that is something that we will have to wait and see how that plays out with Seth Rollins. But if he can stay healthy, if he can keep performing at a high level, then he very well could be this generation's Shawn Michaels or the closest thing. But again, it should be more about Seth Rollins being the first Seth Rollins and not being this generation's Shawn Michaels. You know, it's the same thing with Candace Michelle, when they were trying to make her too much like Trish. If WWE tries to make Seth Rollins too much like Shawn Michaels, it could very well backfire on Rollins. Rollins needs to just focus on being the first Seth Rollins. This one comes from TJ Perkins. So far, from what you've seen, who does it better? TNA's X Division or WCW's Cruiserweights or WCW's Cruiserweights? I would say TNA has probably done the best overall job with the lightweight / cruiserweight / X Division. TNA was really at its peak when it was it was presenting the X Division as something special, and it was something that made TNA stand out from WWE. And those X Division matches in 2004, 2005, 2006, they were stealing the shows on TNA pay-per-views, and people were buying those shows to see the X Division. It was a draw for TNA. The Cruiserweights, the Cruiserweights were helping WCW when Nitro first started. It gave the Nitro shows a variety. You know, if you wanted to see the big stars, you watch Nitro. If you wanted to see fast-paced Cruiserweight action, you watch Nitro. It gave Nitro something different that Raw did not have. But I would say overall TNA really developed the X Division to a point where it really made TNA stand out as something unique and something that they could do really well, perhaps better than WWE. One of the few things, I mean, when you think about it, there's not that many things TNA did that was better than WWE, but as far as presenting the smaller guys and doing those types of matches, I mean, up until NXT, TNA was just blowing WWE out of the water in that category. And now, you know, people might say that WWE has surpassed TNA with NXT and doing the stuff that TNA should have been doing at a high profile level better than what TNA was doing at their peak. This one comes from AceMaker025. Would it be a good idea if Raw had the pre-show for the first 30 minutes and Raw talk for the last 20 minutes? No. The problem with doing this, the ratings would drop. And you go back to WCW, when WCW was starting to fall very far behind WWE in the ratings around early 99, they did something really stupid. They had the first hour of Nitro have nothing but skits and promo videos, no wrestling whatsoever, and the rating tanked. The first hour rating dropped, and they never recovered. That first hour never got back to the level it was at before they did that episode of Nitro, with the first hour just being nothing but skits. Look at the ratings. Go on any website, do a search. You can see the ratings and see how that first hour never recovered after WCW did that. It would be a huge mistake to get fans this idea that the first 30 minutes of Raw is not important and the last 20 minutes is not important. It would definitely affect WWE's ratings in a negative way. So, definitely not a good idea. This one comes from Hot Rod 276. Hey Aaron, do you see Drew Galloway returning to WWE one day? Anything's possible, you know. I'll throw in that answer like I always do. Anything can happen in WWE. Never say never. Yada yada yada. But the thing is about Drew Galloway is, yes, he's talented, but there are lots of talented guys that are not in WWE right now, and WWE has a huge pool of guys they can choose from. There are tons of talented guys in NXT that have not gotten an opportunity on the main roster yet. So it's more likely that guys like Samoa Joe and Nakamura, those guys are going to get the opportunities before WWE brings back somebody from the past. And if they do bring back Drew Galloway, it probably will not be in a role that you would like to see WWE utilize him in. He might come back and be a Jinder Mahal type character, or at best a Brian Kendrick type character where maybe he'll get a run with a mid-card title. But if you think he's going to come back and be world champion, I would say it's unlikely. I mean, I would say less than 50% chance that Drew Galloway comes back and is pushed as a top-tier superstar in WWE. This one comes from Matthew James. If Asuka defeats Mickie James at TakeOver, you said take her over, got Undertaker on the brain, should Asuka face more former women's champions like Lita, Victoria, or Trish? You have to keep in mind that WWE originally wanted to have Trish Stratus in that role at the TakeOver show, since it's in Toronto, in Trish's neck of the woods in Canada. But Trish ended up getting pregnant, so WWE went with Mickie James instead. The other thing is that WWE perhaps called up too many women to the main roster. All the top tier women, you have Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Becky Lynch, all of them are on the main roster now. And really, all you have left are a few women in NXT, one of them being Asuka. So she doesn't have a lot of opponents to work with at the moment. And yeah, WWE needs to focus on starting to bring in new women talent and really getting the women's division in NXT going. Asuka's probably going to be there for a while since they need her. They need some star power in NXT. But yeah, I could definitely see Asuka going up against Trish Stratus down the line, maybe after Trish gives birth, although by then maybe Asuka will be on the main roster, but Lita's another possibility, Victoria's a possibility. I could definitely see some former WWE female stars coming in to challenge Asuka, especially if this match with Mickie James goes over well. And if it does go well, I could see Mickie James perhaps getting a regular gig in NXT, and that becomes an ongoing feud between Asuka and Mickie James. Next one comes from Keith. What do you think about WWE doing a Queen of the Ring tournament? Might elevate the women's division further? Yeah, that would be something interesting to do. And again, going back to previous videos, it would be similar to WWE doing a women's ladder match or a women's Money in the Bank match. And actually, this would make more practical sense because the women will not be put in a position where they have to do all the hardcore spots and they're under a microscope and everyone's expecting them to take all the crazy bumps, and that might be a better solution to do something innovative with the women rather than putting them in a hardcore match like a Money in the Bank match or Elimination Chamber. I actually think that would be your best option if you're going to do something unique and innovative with the women and something they haven't done before. Doing a Queen of the Ring tournament, I think, is a really good idea. So I would do that actually before doing a female Elimination Chamber match or a female Money in the Bank match. This one comes from Ryan Is War. I miss stipulations on Raw and SmackDown like Hell in a Cell, cage match or something rather than a pay-per-view, or is it too much? It is too much, but again, it doesn't really matter much in this era. I mean, WWE could get away with doing a cage match or a Hell in a Cell match on free TV. I would not make it a habit of doing it often because even though the pay-per-view events are not as important as they used to be, the main objective is still to drive network subscriptions and get people trying out the network and potentially subscribing. So that is still WWE's priority, is boosting up those network subscriptions. So you do not want to give away too much on free TV. The ratings, yeah, they're important, but they're not critical to the point where WWE is going to feel the pressure to have a Hell in a Cell match on free TV. I mean, if the ratings start getting like close to 2 million viewers for Raw, which I don't see happening, by the way, but if it ever did get that bad, obviously they got bigger problems, rather than trying to hot shot and do a match like that. I mean, if the ratings were getting that low, that's really a sign you need to just fire your writers and hire a new writing team rather than say, hey, our ratings are so low, we need to do a Hell in a Cell match or a ladder match or something like that. So, ideally, you just want to have better writing. You don't need to have the stipulation matches on free TV. I mean, it would just come off as desperation if WWE did that. This one comes from Eric Cruz. Instead of a one-on-one match, what if Undertaker and Sting teamed up at WrestleMania, eases the load on both, and they get to work a match together? Sting's not wrestling. I hate to tell you, Sting, he is not going to get in the ring again, unfortunately, because of his neck. And Undertaker, yeah, it might benefit for him to be in a tag team match where he would not have to do as much, but it's just not as impactful if Undertaker's in a tag team match. I mean, yeah, they could wait and do Undertaker and Kane versus Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt for WrestleMania. I suppose that would be alright, but I think you're a lot better off doing an Undertaker one-on-one match. If Undertaker's going to come back and wrestle, then you might as well do the biggest match possible, and I just don't sense that a tag team match is the biggest match you can do with The Undertaker. So I would rather him not be at WrestleMania than throw him in a match that doesn't have quite as much meaning as a one-on-one match. This one comes from Tristan Quick. Which match could you see headlining Survivor Series? The men's elimination match or Lesnar versus Goldberg? I think Lesnar versus Goldberg going on last would be a mistake right now. I just sense the crowd is going to turn on Goldberg, and it might not be the best way to end the show, but WWE has been making some weird choices for final matches. We saw Sasha and Charlotte go on last and didn't really get over as well as people were hoping. You had Bray Wyatt versus Orton closing the No Mercy pay-per-view, which was weird, and WWE had their reasoning for that because of the debate. They wanted to have the WWE title match go on right away so they would not be in competition with that. I think it would be better to end the show with the male 5-on-5 Raw versus SmackDown match. At least that's what I think would be the best choice. You want to end the show on a high note. Although I guess Brock beating Goldberg, I think fans would be happy with that. So, I mean, they might end up going with Goldberg versus Lesnar match last, but I don't know if that's the smartest idea. But we'll see. They very well could end up going with that. Got this one here from Jared J. Smith. Hey Aaron, what would you say was the best and the worst Survivor Series elimination matches? Best one. I mean, I've talked about my favorite Survivor Series matches before, but I'll run through them real quick. 1990, the Ultimate Match or Survival, Hogan, Warrior, and Tito Santana against the entire Rick Martel team and Ted DiBiase. I always enjoyed that match very much as a kid. And then the wild card match at the 95 Survivor Series with Shawn Michaels doing all of his stuff and Ahmed Johnson's big pay-per-view. I think he was actually at the previous pay-per-view as well, but that was one of his big showings when people actually thought Ahmed was going to be a really big deal. I just like that match with the heels and faces having to coexist. And then 2003, Team Austin versus Team Bischoff was really entertaining. And the 2005 match with Orton in it and Shawn Michaels, that was another really good match. So those would be my top ones. Worst Survivor Series matches, that one in 93 where you had everyone dressed up as Doink the Clown, that was pretty awful. Pretty awful. And the year after that, I mean, it was bad, but I guess it was entertaining in a bad way. I mean, maybe it was the most entertaining bad Survivor Series match. Jerry Lawler and his court against Doink, Dink, Pink, and Wink and Link, whatever they were called. Oh man, that match was just so bad, but I mean, it did have its entertainment value, I guess. And, the Survivor Series match in 87 with all the tag teams, I mean, that was just overkill, and I hope that that's not what we get this year when you have too many guys out there at ringside and it becomes just a big cluster. The women's one in 87 wasn't that good either, but the commentary was really good in 87, so it's hard for me to really be critical of those matches. This one comes from Ben Tooth. Hey Aaron, do you think WWE might get the Shield back together in a desperate attempt to get Roman over? I don't think so, because Dean Ambrose has a very solid storyline he's in right now, and I'm still expecting a heel turn from Ambrose. I'm hoping at least that he will turn heel after the pay-per-view, and if that's the case, then there's no point in him going to Raw and forming with a babyface Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. So I'm not expecting that to happen. I'm not expecting Dean Ambrose on Raw anytime soon. One day there will be the Shield reunion that everyone's hoping for, but I think it's too soon. I think you're better off waiting another year or two at least before you even consider doing a Shield reunion. Again, if WWE did have Dean Ambrose show up on Raw, it would really reek of desperation, I think, to try and get Roman over as a babyface, and I think the fans would see right through it. At least I hope they would. So I'm not expecting that to happen, and I don't think they should right now anyways. This one comes from David Painmark. What do you think about Curtis Axel being the final member of the Raw Survivor Series team and having a good showing? Good career booster. Well, this is being recorded after Raw, so Curtis Axel's not part of the Raw team, and it would have been a bad decision to do that. I mean, the only reason you would have him there would be for him to take the fall for somebody, so it's not going to do him any good to be in that match if the only purpose of him being in the match is for him to put over somebody and be a body to lose because it's an elimination match. You know, Curtis Axel, he gets good reactions every now and then, and I do feel bad for the guy that he seems to have some momentum at times and then the company just doesn't do anything with him. But again, you know, he has been typecasted in a certain role for so long. I totally understand why the company does not want to invest in him at this point. I mean, they've already given him some pushes. He was put up against CM Punk at one point. He got a victory over Triple H, although that was such a joke. I mean, they should have gone all the way with him rather than just give him a win where it really doesn't mean much. So yeah, I mean, part of me feels bad for him, and part of me feels that he did get some opportunities in WWE, and you know, he just didn't catch on with the WWE universe. That'll do it for episode number 875. 875 episodes. That is crazy, but gotta keep going, gotta keep doing more, gotta reach 1,000, hopefully soon. So keep the questions coming in. Twitter.com/AaronRift, #PAIV. Keep spreading the word about NoDQ&A video. Tell a friend, and I will see you guys next time for more.